Taxes. The rulers of Mahajanapadas needed resources to build forts and maintain big armies, so they started collecting taxes. Taxes were imposed on crops, which was the most important, as most of the people were farmers. This was fixed at about 1/6 of the produce and was known as bhaga or share. There were taxes on craftspersons who had to work a day every month. Herders had to pay tax in the form of animals and animal produce. Goods sold and bought through trade were also taxed. Hunters and gatherers were required to produce forest produce to the Raja. Changes in agriculture. There were two changes in agriculture at this time. The first was the use of iron plough, shares for better turning of soil, and secondly, transplantation of paddy for increased production. The iron ploughshare could turn heavy clay soil better than wooden ploughshare, so that more grain was produced. Transplantation ensured that more plants survived for increased production. This work was generally done by slave men and women or landless agricultural laborers. A closer look. Magadha. Magadha became an important Mahajanapada in about 200 years. The rivers Ganga and Son flowed through Magadha, facilitating transport, water supplies, and making the land fertile. Elephants that lived in the forest could be captured and trained for the army. Wood for building houses, carts, and chariots could also be obtained from the forests. Iron ore was available from mines in Magadha that could be used for making strong tools and weapons. Bimbisara and Ajatashatru were two powerful rulers of Magadha who conquered other Janapadas. Mahapadmananda was another important ruler. He brought the northwest part of the subcontinent under his control. Rajgriha, present-day Rajgir in Bihar, remained the capital of Magadha for several years. Later, the capital was shifted to Patliputra. About 2,300 years ago, a ruler from Macedonia called Alexander wanted to conquer the world. He was able to conquer parts of Egypt and West Asia and came up to the banks of river Bias in the Indian subcontinent, but he could not march further as his soldiers were afraid of the Indian rulers. A closer look. Vaji, with its capital at Vaishali, was governed with a government of different form, known as Gana or Sangha. In Gana or Sangha, many people ruled together and each one was called a Raja. These Rajas performed many rituals together and met each other in meetings to decide on important matters like enemy threat or any other urgent matter. Women, dasas and kamakaras were not allowed to participate in these meetings. Lord Buddha and Mahavira belonged to Janas or Sanghas. Ajatashatru and the Vajis. This account of the Vajis is taken from the famous Buddhist book called Digha Nikaya, which was written about 2,300 years ago. Ajatashatru wanted to attack the Vajis and sent his minister named Vasakara to Lord Buddha to seek his advice. Lord Buddha inquired if the Vajis met frequently in full meetings. When he heard that they did meet, he said that Vajis would continue to prosper as long as they held full and frequent public meetings. They met and acted together. They followed established rules. They respected, supported, and listened to elders. Vaji women were not held by force or captured. Chaityas, local shrines, were maintained in both towns and villages. Wise saints who followed different beliefs were respected and allowed to enter and leave the country freely. Elsewhere, around 2,500 years ago, people in Athens formed a type of government called democracy, which lasted for about 200 years. All men over the age of 30 were recognized as citizens, and there was a meeting held at least 40 times a year to decide on important issues and could be attended by all citizens. Appointments for many positions was chosen through lottery. People gave in their names and some were chosen through lottery. Citizens were expected to serve the army and the navy, while women were not considered citizens. Foreigners, whose profession was merchants and craftspersons, did not have rights as citizens. There were several thousands of slaves who worked in Athens in mines and fields.